thanks for joining us. I'm Mitchell Ringos. A resolution focused on ending homelessness recently received City Council support. It came from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and calls on the provincial government to take immediate steps to address the issue. The AMO is calling homelessness in the province a made-in-Ontario crisis. The group says the issue is being made worse by policy choices and underinvestment in solutions like affordable housing. Councillor Kristen Oliver, who also chairs the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, brought this resolution forward to Council, saying it's time for the province to step up.
This motion is really basically a call to action to encourage the province to work collaboratively with municipalities to end homelessness and to find some strategic planning forward. In the last provincial budget, there was some acknowledgement and some funds that were allocated, but recognizing that the province still needs to do some more.
The AMO resolution and Council's letter of support will be sent to the ministers responsible for housing, children, social services, and health. China has begun 3 days of military drills in the Taiwan Strait. It's a form of retaliation after U.S. House Speaker defied China by meeting with Taiwan's president in Washington earlier this week. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver has the latest.
Chinese warships and dozens of fighter jets moved towards Taiwan Saturday as part of what the Chinese military called combat readiness patrols. 3 days of military drills, a form of retaliation against U.S. lawmakers who have been meeting with Taiwan's president to show support in the face of growing Chinese intimidation.
Taiwan's strength, openness, and resiliency is the envy of Communist China.
As the chair of the U.S. Committee on Foreign Affairs promised to speed up the delivery of weapons and to provide training to Taiwan's military, China sent planes across the sensitive median line of the Strait, an unofficial dividing line separating Taiwan from mainland China.
I think China feels they have to do something. They can't just let this go unnoticed. And this is about the best that they can do to put in a shocking display of military might.
China considers Taiwan a breakaway province and insists the island nation will be reunified with mainland China. Taiwan, however, sees itself as a sovereign state with its own constitution and leaders. Canada doesn't currently recognize it as such. A parliamentary committee report recently said the Taiwanese people, rather than Beijing, should decide the fate of the self-ruled island, a recommendation Taiwan's representative to Canada supports.
It should happen, and I think this is a very fundamental principle that democracy should adhere to.
A bipartisan group of Canadian MPs will head to Taiwan this week as a show of solidarity for an island nation under increasing threat from China. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
The city is hoping for some help from the province to get a few key facilities ready for the 2024 Ontario Winter Games. A $1 million funding application has been sent through the NOHFC to create lasting improvements to city-owned facilities. If approved, Fort William Gardens and Delaney Arena would receive better Wi-Fi. The Gardens would also see accessibility improvements for sledge hockey and a new PA system. Over at the Canada Games complex, some of the funding is earmarked for a brand new 3-meter diving board, a video score clock, and an improved PA system there as well. The 2024 Ontario Winter Games are expected to bring more than 3,000 athletes and their coaches into the city over the course of the event. The Port Arthur Bay welcomed its first ocean-going salty vessel of the 2023 shipping season. The MV Federal Dart arrived in the city yesterday, and a top hat ceremony was held today to honor the captain. Jessica Clement has the details.
The MV Federal Dart, a 5-year-old Marshall Islands flagged bulker, made it into the harbor on Friday and was tied up at Superior Elevator on Saturday to take on a load of Canadian wheat. With cargo loading operations underway, Captain Anubarit Aurora was bestowed the ceremonial top hat by Port Board Director Pat Bushby. And while this was his first top hat ceremony, Captain Aurora says he's no stranger to the Port of Thunder Bay.
I've been here, I've loaded potash as captain, I've loaded wheat at Richardson, I've loaded wheat at Viterra Terminal. This is the first time at Superior Elevator and being the first salty at the same time.
The vessel was previously docked in Duluth, dropping off cement from Turkey, and Captain Aurora says the overall voyage wasn't too rough.
It was okay, nice. Not that rough, but we had a few patches of rough weather on the way in the Atlantic Ocean. We got ice when we entered the St. Lawrence Seaway, up to the Welland Canal and all the way, and in the Duluth Harbor as well. Okay. And definitely from Duluth to Thunder Bay, we faced a snowstorm in the night on our way. So that was something different experience altogether.
The seaway route via the Port of Thunder Bay is a critical supply chain link for Canadian grain and potash exports, as well as imports of general and break bulk cargo. Thunder Bay Port Authority CEO Tim Heaney says shipping by ocean-going vessel is gaining prominence at the port, with salty visits up by 43% in the last decade.
You get about 400 ships in total. About 150 of them will be this type of saltwater vessel. The remainder will be Lakers. It's about 900 people work in the port and around the port. So it's the biggest industrial taxpayer in the city. So it is a big part of the economy of the town for sure.
The Federal Dart will set sail for the United Kingdom on Sunday. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Thunder Bay tourism officials are preparing for this year's cruise ship season, which they believe will be the busiest one yet for cruise trip traffic at the local port. 4 vessels will come into the city. The Ocean Navigator and the Viking Octantis were both here last year. They'll be joined by the Viking Polaris and the Hanseatic Inspiration, which will make their inaugural visit to Thunder Bay. The Octantis will be the first to visit the city on May 25th. In total, the 4 ships will make 15 stops with a mix of turnarounds and one-day visits. City Tourism Manager Paul Pepe believes cruising will be a long-term attraction. Because of that, he believes it's important to have partnerships with the other Great Lake ports.
Cruise ships just don't come to Thunder Bay because of Thunder Bay. They come to the Great Lakes, and it's really important that all of us are working together. So they don't just pick one city in their route. It really has come down to all of the cities in the Great Lakes region working together to bring ships into the Great Lakes. So we work closely with Duluth, with Toronto, with Milwaukee, with other cities around the lakes as part of some of the coalitions and some of the partnerships we have.
With Easter weekend upon us, humane societies say that the weekends tend to bring a spike in demand for the adoption of bunnies. And even though they are cute and fluffy, they say owners who are not prepared to take care of them end up bringing them back to shelters. CTV's Sergio Rangio reports.
Come say hi.
Lynn Michoud from the Timmins and District Humane Societies, showing off 3 residents in her care. Say hello to Moose, Goose, and Corey. They're undeniably adorable, but she wants to make sure the people who want to adopt them as pets are doing it for the right reason and not just a novelty gift at Easter.
Hi, handsome. Once they get past the cuteness of the rabbit or things, progress, we do get people then finding that it's difficult to maintain the care of the rabbit.
Michoud says bunnies start off small and cuddly, but they don't stay that way for long. And just like dogs and cats, they require specific care.
You have to have proper nutrition, constant hay so they can wear down their teeth. You have to cut their nails. They do get sick, so they do require veterinary care. And like any other animal, they do require natural exercise. So you can't keep them in a cage their whole life.
Michoud says people looking to buy or adopt an Easter bunny often don't realize how much responsibility is involved. If not cared for properly, she says they'll develop health and behavioral issues, and then months later, they wind up back at the shelter.
We are never without a rabbit. We always have rabbits in our care.
Already at capacity, the Humane Society currently has a wait list for surrenders of small animals. Michoud says there's constant pressure both to free up space and to ensure adopters have the right motivation. She says people should be ready for a lifelong commitment.
I live by the motto that if we take an animal into our home, it's not about them accommodating us, it's about us accommodating them.
The Humane Society says it'll never refuse a sincere pet owner or turn away those who just can't take care of their animals. They just want to make sure that people do their research and are ready to give cuddly creatures like Goose here a true forever home. Sergio Rangio, CTV News, Timmins.
Local sports fanatics and card collectors stopped by the Ramada Hotel today for the Sports Cards and Collectibles show. 16 vendors were on site with a variety of sports memorabilia and cards for visitors to check out. The free event gave members of the Sports Collectors Club and the community a chance to see and possibly trade or purchase sports memorabilia for their collections, as well as talk sports with like-minded individuals. The show featured mainly sports memorabilia, but there was also an abundance of Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and other similar collectibles. Show organizer Ralph Rosengren says the collectibles community has grown a lot over the past few years.
It used to be a fairly small-knit community, but like I said, since COVID, things are really started to grow. A lot of different products out there, and the one thing is there's a market for everything. We had a gentleman today come in with a lot of old magazines from the 30s and 40s. And it was all about local Fort William, Port Arthur stuff. So we really have a vast range, and so you just never know what the community might bring, right?
Rosengren says collectors can look forward to more shows later this year. And after the break, we'll be joined by sports anchor Kurt Black. He'll have all the news on the sports for the day, including some local hockey as the Walleye are back in town for playoffs.